first and foremost, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. So I love working with other entrepreneurs, other brand owners. For e-commerce specifically and ops, I love solving problems. I like to gather all the associated parties, get feedback.
What excites you most about what you're doing in your job?
I love learning about e-com ops, and I like sharpening my tools, I guess. I do enjoy helping people get processes dialed down. But I think the number one thing is
Everybody, this is Luminous's head of accounts, Josh.
Yeah, happy
Josh
to be here.
Sanders. So Josh has, although he is young, he has a deep background in e-commerce, and he's got tons of passion for it. So Josh, can you just intro yourself and why you're interested in e-commerce ops?
Yeah.
Your background there?
Yeah, for sure. So my background in e-commerce ops really stems from a lot of family members at Thread. My cousin Kenzie Bauer and her husband Colby founded the company, and my brother Mitch is the COO. My cousin Ryan's the CFO. So I actually got my introduction to e-commerce came from Colby. He had a friend that was another founder of a D2C brand. They did a variety of different sales channels as well, but made the intro. These guys, they basically said, hey, we need Josh to do what Mitch is doing at Thread. So I came in, awesome company called Madsen of America. We sold sunglasses. I came in, helped in with ops, dealing with the world of 3PLs and wholesale, Shopify, just dove in and started learning tons and tons. One of the biggest things was I was in charge of their Amazon channel. So launched that and got to know the complexities of e-commerce ops. So fell in love with it right away. And so now I'm here.
Yeah. So why do you love e-commerce ops? What do you think is implementation at a software company like Luminous it's a difficult job. For those of you who don't know, it's a tough job, especially when you care about your clients. Yeah, I mean, you have to have deep breadth of knowledge across multiple systems, multiple processes. So why does it appeal to you? Why do you like it?
Yeah, I'd say first and foremost, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. So I love working with other entrepreneurs, other brand owners, people in the space. And for e-commerce specifically and ops, I love solving problems. So that's one of the funnest things about implementation is you come across problems all the time in the warehouse, along the fulfillment flow, selling across multiple channels, wholesale, just all the complexities. I love helping people streamline those processes and get things automated. That's what I love.
Yeah, and that's also another reason why Josh is here. So I used to handle all the implementations, and for me, what drove me, and I think what is a common thread between Josh and I is I always loved the before and after picture of a company, like before Luminous, after Luminous, before an inventory system, after an inventory system. I was always driven by that. Like,
yeah, for sure.
It's so cool coming into a warehouse or to a client that has no visibility, or like everything's just all over the place.
Yep.
And then at the end, like the end of implementation, the satisfying, like, look at this beautiful report. Like it's actually accurate, or like you can actually track the performance of your warehouse workers, or like, it's always cool to see that before and after.
Yeah, I love that. Love that part of it because you can just see the transition and the progress made from people. Like, for example, having no idea where their inventory is at. And then by the end of it, it's like things are dialed. There's a lot less stress involved after implementation. So it's fun to see the before and after.
Yeah. So now you now have a lot more experience with other systems in the e-commerce space. When I say systems, I mean inventory management systems, order management systems, ERPs. Your brother implemented NetSuite.
Yep.
So like, what do you think? First off, why did you choose to work at Luminous? What were we doing differently that you saw like, I want to be a part of that? Like, What is the difference between us, for example, and us in how we approach implementation and like SKU Vault or SKUBana, 3PL Central, the names that you know and have experience with now?
I'd say the biggest thing from the get-go, I realized the culture here was very customer-centric, meaning that implementation's very hands-on. We want to make sure that the system is working for our clients versus some of these other systems. You hear horror stories all the time where it's like, oh, the account manager hopped on a 2-hour call and then gave us some support, and then we were kind of left to our own devices. I love Luminous especially because you, primarily before I showed up, you would go in there totally hands-on. You would say, this is the best way to do this. I'm going to help you get to this point. And so that's one of the biggest things I've realized. Luminous versus a SKUBana, SKU Vault, 3PL Central, which is now extensive, is just how much we care. And that's not even talking about all the cool things we're doing on the tech side, but just the culture and our care for clients is amazing. That's one of the driving factors that I just love.
So if you had to summarize, like what, when you start an implementation with Luminous, say a customer signs on and they're wanting so many deliverables with their warehouse, their WMS, their inventory management system, how do you collaborate with people? What are, I guess you could say, like, what are as our head of accounts and head of implementation, what are some of the pillars of that team that drive you? How do you approach implementations?
There's a lot to that question. A lot of it is about discovery, and I know that's a very broad term, but really we can divide up implementation in a couple different phases, if you will, such as purchasing, fulfillment, warehouse. I like to gather all the associated parties, get feedback. I love to dive into the warehouse, understand just the nitty-gritty details of why they're doing something.
I think this is an important part about the why of Luminous and how it translates to implementation. Like your brother at ThreadVault, he's implemented NetSuite before.
Yep.
Did they have a meeting of the minds where they're just like, or was it more like, our system does it this way, you need to do it this way? Like basically change your processes to our system.
I think, that's the other thing, your question earlier with other systems. I think a lot of the times there's not a meeting of the minds, like you say, where it's like, hey, this is the system, deal with it. Like, you're just going to do it this way kind of thing. Whereas the way I approach implementation from the get-go, I have ideas on what is going to work best for a client, or just depending on who they are, how much they're selling, different complexities that they're dealing with. But like you said, with the meeting of the minds, I love everyone comes to the table, they say why they're doing things, how they're doing it, and what they'd like to see going forward. So ties in great with what we've been talking about already, but I think that's one of the biggest whys of Luminous, really.
Yeah. And, look, sometimes some clients will need a nudge in the right direction with processes.
For sure.
But it will never be as stark as like,
my way
system,
or the highway.
Exactly. My way or the highway. My system is rigid. You just do it this way. That's it. We're constantly building to make sure we can at least have some flexibility in processes. Because sometimes companies lose a lot of efficiency actually by having to change processes, and they don't necessarily gain it when they do it the NetSuite way or, the 3PL Central way.
Goes just along. We talk a lot about the added friction when implementing an inventory system or any supply chain management tool. And we try to minimize that friction according to the client's needs. So, and we have that discussion frequently with our clients is, hey, you want this level of visibility, then there's going to be X amount of added friction. But if they're okay with the current visibility, then we have that discussion about added friction and what the processes need to look like.
Okay. So give me one example of how you've, within implementation of a client, how instead of just forcing them to do something a certain way, there was some sort of meeting of the minds and we were actually able to deliver or expand our product functionality to be a little bit more flexible. Do you have any examples?
Yeah, I think the first one that comes to mind, client of ours, we had preliminary discussions with them about implementing a pick and pack system. This client sells across multiple sales channels. They have a variety of different SKUs. And for them, the visibility that comes along with pick and pack, so I mean, picking efficiencies, different scores ranging with that, they came to us and said, you know what, guys, I think this is just adding a little bit too much complexity in our warehouse. And we don't really need to do pick and pack. We don't really need to implement tracking inventory by location or by bin. And so we kind of readjusted what we were looking at for implementation and said, okay, that's totally fine. We're going to keep the processes pretty much as is in the warehouse and supplement it with things that we were planning on doing so. So totally, there's numerous examples though of people coming to me and saying, hey, I'd like it this way, or I'd like to steer towards a different course, and we pivot as needed. So
yeah, and what we do is we typically, like, we'll take feedback, for example, like the fulfillment flow. What that led to on the tech side, which I can speak to, is we actually came up with a quick fulfillment flow. So we're a very flexible system where it's like, okay, you want the visibility of pick and pack, which would that mean translation in layman's terms? Like you want to see, you want the accuracy of what bins this inventory is pulling from when it's getting deducted. But you don't want to add the friction of somebody like forcing them to do a pick list.
Yeah.
So we actually did a quick fulfillment flow where there's layers of flexibility or complexity within our fulfillment process. Like you can do it like full on where like you have to, every single line item and every single bin, you have to confirm it. You have to QC verify. Like it can be that complex. Or it could be as simple as like select the orders, print out the shipping labels, print out the picking slips, the packing slips, done.
And if you
and it auto deducts from the bin.
And if you don't want all of that, I mean, that comes back to what we were talking about earlier. A big ERP or a different system might come to all their clients and say, you are doing this whether you like it or not. And it becomes a headache more than anything for these brands because they say, you know what, that's too much added friction. By doing this, it's not going to help us as much as it would if we could do X, Y, and Z or reduce that friction. So just another good point there. Another reason why I love Luminous is the feedback that we gain from implementation is actually implemented into the tech. Like your example there is we hear the clients and we understand their needs.
Nice. Okay. What excites you most about what you're doing in your job? Kind of branching off what you just said. And what excites you most about the future of Luminous as a product?
Luminous as a product.
Basically, why are you here? Why do you continue to be here when it is a difficult job?
Yeah,
you spend a lot of time with clients.
Spend a lot of time in the warehouse getting things dialed in. Selfishly, I love learning. I love learning about e-com ops, and I like sharpening my tools, I guess. That'd be selfishly speaking. But I do enjoy helping people get processes dialed down. There's a certain satisfaction that comes from the job. Like you said earlier, when you finish an implementation and you've helped a client and you go back to them and you say, wow, like things are dialed. Like that's a really rewarding thing when you can go back to a client and
you have visibility now.
Yeah, it's like, wow, you have some great reporting. Like you're not going out of stock every week. And so that makes me feel good, like just helping other people. For Luminous as a product, now I could take all day and talk about what I'm excited for with Luminous, but I think the number one thing is the introduction of AI to the supply chain for e-commerce ops. And there's tons of routes you could go down specifically in that topic, but I'm just excited to be able to automate further using AI, using tech, and we've got some good things coming. Yeah,
and I think Josh is a really important pillar of Luminous because at Luminous, so for example, like what's the difference between Luminous and like an Odoo, for example? And for those who don't know, Odoo is like they're like a buffet style ERP where it's like, you pick this, and you pick this, and you pick this. And so what I think most people miss in a system is there will always be an intersection between software and implementation. In other words, support, like on the ground support to get a system working. That's just a belief that I have, and I'll take that to the bank. And Josh is a big pillar about like finding out how we can scale that. So, that's it's not really a question. I'm just really bringing that up like that. You're such a massive pillar of that because we're not a system. We're not going to ever scale past the level of attention that we give right now. We won't. We will figure out how to keep that level of attention and like 100% success rate in implementation, like very high success rate. Because I really do believe if you actually want a system to work, you need to have hands-on implementation.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I see it day in, day out. There's clients, there's brands that when they're a little bit smaller, say, 2 or 3 million, a lot of times they don't have operational procedures in place. So like at the warehouse, it oftentimes it could kind of be a free-for-all. So in some ways, Luminous is almost like a consultant. It's a bonus point for implementing Luminous is you get such an hands-on experience with implementation that we help them figure out their processes.
And things also escalate to if you ever run into an issue. I also have a deep background in e-commerce and supply chain ops.
You do?
Like, yeah, you didn't know that? No, so like we have a really good working relationship between our pillars. So mainly our CTO, Brendan, he's the tech guy. And then I'm our CEO. I have a deep operational background. We're really good at like, if Josh ever runs into something that he might not fully understand, like, I haven't come across this. Like, we'll always make sure, like, we routinely hop on calls, all three of us with the operator of a company to just gather all of the minds together. Like, what is the best way to approach this?
Well, perfect example this morning. The other day I went to a client and was doing some discovery for most of the day, and I took great notes, like always, but I felt it would be beneficial. Let's hop on with Brendan, our CTO, with this client. Like, let's hear it straight from them why they're doing these things and how, so that he can better understand the tech side of things. So,
because you hold such an important part in the business because you're not just implementing, you're taking client feedback that, like you said, goes directly into the building of the product. Now, don't get this twisted. We don't build exactly we don't build custom software. We don't take what a client says and we're like, we're going to build exactly that. No, it goes through the filter of Josh, it goes through my operational filter, and it goes through Brendan's tech filter. Like, how can this be scalable? How can we make the system overall more flexible to meet this need and also, thousands of clients more needs. So I think that's enough about implementation. Let's get to know you a little bit more. So what
exciting stuff.
What do you like to do? You have a background. You used to be a D1 athlete. D1 basketball player. Give us just some like personal background on you. What do you like to do?
So touching on basketball, played basketball all when I was little, went to Davis High.
He used to be able to windmill dunk.
Used to be able to windmill dunk. You lose it fast though.
Now, did you jump off of 2 feet or 1 feet?
Usually 1, but
really? Okay. You're a 1-leg jumper.
In-game dunking is more 2 though.
Got it.
So, but if you see me and ask me to dunk, then probably won't happen so easily. Warm up a little bit. So at this point I've lost it a little bit, but anyway, went to high school. After high school, served a mission, then went and played ball at Weber State.
Where'd you serve?
I was in the Philippines.
Okay, so you serve an LDS mission.
Mission in the Philippines, which is another fun thing about Luminous. We have some team members from the Philippines, so it's fun to speak with them in Tagalog. So that's a good time too. Got home from my mission, went to Weber State. I always joke around with everyone. If you know Damian Lillard, he's the second best player to ever go to Weber State. You're looking at number 1. No, I'm just kidding. Great experience playing. Since I've been done, I've been heavily involved in e-com ops and whatnot. Currently married. My wife, Haley, she's the best. She always lets me go and do all my different side projects and spend a ton of time with Luminous and clients. So she's great too.
She's the MVP.
Yeah, she's the real MVP here.
I think that's one of the biggest things that obviously you have an operational background and like you have a massive hunger to help build Luminous. But one of the things that really attracted me about you as an employee and now like such a pivotal part of our business is I feel like D1 athletes have a level of discipline. It's just like in their nature. And this is why it's so, for me, I actually think it's important for clients to know this about you. Like you get shit done. Like there's not an excuse to not get something done. And I think that comes from your discipline from being a D1 athlete and playing high level sports.
Yeah. I mean, all through high school, like had lots of coaches that were, I don't know if intense is the right word, but they expected a lot. So, I mean, from 15, 16 years old, like just about every school day, waking up at 5 a.m. to go work out before school and then work out after school. And then went directly on a mission, which, I mean, you know as well, is difficult.
Oh, yeah.
And then go into college basketball, it kind of ramps up another level with the intensity and everything involved with that. So, I mean, how that transitions to what I'm doing now, I feel like I'm pretty comfortable walking to clients and being bold with ideas I have with their operations and saying, we're going to get this done like today. Like we're going to get this all dialed. So yeah, totally like resonates well and it has translated well to what I'm doing now.
Yeah. And something I can also say is Josh is also very pleasant to work with as well.
I hope so.
So he's got that hardcore attitude, but he's also...
I'll joke around.
He's good to work with.
I'm not scary.
He's easy on the eyes, right?
Yeah. Pretty good looking. Pretty good looking too. I wore a hat today, so.
We still need to, you know what we should do? We should film you destroying me one-on-one in basketball just to like show some character at the company. Like,
yeah, we should get some highlight tapes. Get the company mixtape out.
That's right.
Basketball.
I'll get like one lucky step back or something.
Hey, well, yeah.
And we'll just play that on repeat.
Here's a good story. I think I was maybe a month or two in working for Luminous and I told Jared, I was like, yeah, I'm actually playing with some guys next Saturday. And Jared drove like an hour, I think. Like he drove like an hour to the gym. And then after that, like I talked to him and he was like, dude, like that was a little over the top for me. Like,
it's like it was
like a little intense.
It was like a bunch of D1 athletes playing basketball on a Saturday. And they're like all swearing at you for like not calling out the screen. Like I'm just like, jeez.
So we haven't played pickup together since, but that time's coming.
Yeah, we need
coming.
All right. Well, that's basically it, man.
Well, that's me.
Anything you want to let this could be prospective clients or clients who are watching this. What do you want them to know?
Current clients, I love you. Prospective clients, I will love you. No, but in all seriousness, like Luminous is great. We care so much about the people we work with, the brands that we interact with every day. So give it a try. Like if you're on our website right now, scrolling through or whatever it may be, however you see this, like give us a call. Like we'd even just love to chat about what you're doing for your ops right now. We like getting feedback about the market and how things are going. So, I mean, yeah, don't hesitate. Just pick our brains on things. We're not perfect, but I mean, we like to be a good voice in the community as well when it comes to e-commerce and operations.
Well said. Well said. There we go.